Hello, my name is Martin Pistorius, and this is my advice on how to prepare for and deliver a talk. Whether it's a speech or a presentation, over the years I have been fortunate to deliver many of them all over the world. For a person who uses augmentative and alternative communication, AAC, giving a talk can present some challenges. Through the next few minutes we will go through what I have learned to deliver a successful talk. For the sake of simplicity, I will use the term, a talk. However, the information in this video can be applied to any form of public speaking, be it a speech or presentation. The opportunity to give a talk usually comes through an invitation, having a paper accepted at a conference, or be required as part of your job. Irrespective of how the opportunity presented itself, this is the time to do the basic groundwork for your talk by gathering information. This will help you to plan and prepare for your talk. You will need to know: when will the talk be? Knowing this allows you to determine if you are available to do the talk, as well as plan the work required to prepare for the talk. Where will you be giving the talk? This enables you to make all the logistical arrangements. Think about how you get there. Can you travel there on the day, or do you need to book accommodation? Find out exactly where you need to be, and if you will be meeting someone, what their name and contact details are. If you require access accommodations, find out if the venue is wheelchair accessible. If you are traveling by car, where should you park? What will the talk be about? This you may know, but in other cases you will need to ask, or at least confirm what you will be talking about. I find, too, that it is often useful to ask what the expectations are for your talk. Sometimes what you think is expected from you is different to what is actually expected from you. If it's a subject you are not comfortable talking about, now would be the time to say no. There have been occasions when I have been asked to talk about a particular subject, but I have said no, simply because I haven't felt confident to talk about it. How long do you have to talk for? If you don't already know, be sure to find out how long you have or will be expected to talk for. Will you be taking questions? If possible, find out if you will be expected to take questions. Knowing this will enable you to allow time for questions, as well as to mentally prepare for them. Unfortunately, unless you are given the questions in advance, it is usually very difficult to prepare pre-programmed answers. Remember, it is okay for you to say, "No, I would prefer not to answer questions." Who will be in the audience? This can often be difficult to establish. However, even just having a rough idea of who you will be talking to will help you to better prepare. The technicalities. Decide what you will need for your talk. Do you need a data projector for a presentation? Will you need to connect your communication device to the sound system? A general rule of thumb is if there will only be about 10 people, your device's sound is probably adequate. If you do need to connect your device, know which connections you will need. In most cases there will be someone at the venue to provide technical support. However, it is good to know what type of connections you will need. If you will be showing PowerPoint or video, you will first need to decide if you will use your own device or the venue's. If you will be using the venue's, it is always good to double-check that they have a computer, and that it is able to run your video or PowerPoint. Think too about controlling the presentation. Will you do so, or will someone do it on your behalf? If someone else is going to be doing it, make sure to prepare instructions to explain to them what you would like. If you are going to run it off your own computer, you will need either a VGA or HMDI connection. This is what a VGA connection looks like. This is an older connection and is starting to disappear. This is what an HMDI connection looks like. Note that depending on what device you are using, you may need to purchase an adapter. A lot of venues will have adapters, but from experience I would recommend getting your own if possible. For audio, in other words, for sound output you will need a 3.5mm mini jack plug. These are pretty standard, and I typically say they are like any regular connection for headphones. If your device has a protective case, I recommend taking a set of headphones and plugging them in, to make sure that they can easily be plugged into your device. With the groundwork complete, it's time to move on to the preparation. Preparation is key to delivering a good talk. As Abraham Lincoln said, "Give me 6 hours to chop down a tree, and I will spend the first 4 sharpening the axe." The groundwork we have done will help us to prepare for the talk. We should now know, roughly, how long the talk needs to be, who the audience will be, and what the talk will be about. How you approach writing the talk tends to differ from person to person. However, all good talks have one clear concept at their heart. Be clear on what exactly your message is. It is useful for your talk to have a single sentence that captures and conveys what your core message is. Don't be afraid of repeating this in subtle variations throughout your talk, saying the same thing in different ways. However, be careful not to overdo it, or to force this. It should be a natural part of the talk. I also find it helpful to structure my talks with a beginning, middle, and end, often concluding with my core message or a kind word. If need be, make sure to dedicate some time to study your topic and read up on the topic you will be speaking about. Often, even if it's a topic you know well, it can be helpful to do some additional research, even if it is simply to confirm your facts. Remember who your audience is. Think about who you will be talking to. Will they understand the terms and concepts you will be using, or do you need to explain them? For example, if I am talking about computer networks, the terms and language I use will be very different if I am talking to a group of computer scientists than if I was talking to a group of school children. Be concise. It is far better to say something well, in less time, than it is to ramble on. Think about everything you write, questioning it, asking yourself why you are saying it, and if it adds value. If it doesn't, consider leaving it out. Remember that the average person's undivided attention span is approximately 10 minutes. Holding an audience's attention can be a challenge, even more so for people who use AAC. Weaving little stories and anecdotes into your talk is a great way of keeping your audience engaged and helping them to relate to what you are saying. Humor is another way of keeping the audience engaged. However, my advice is to be very careful about trying to be funny. If it's forced, it can easily become awkward and have the opposite effect. Rather be true to yourself and let humor develop naturally while writing your talk. Using a visual aid. The use of a visual aid like PowerPoint is another way to keep your audience engaged. However, think carefully about using one. It can sometimes be more impactful not to use a visual aid. When I gave my TED Talk, I chose not to use a presentation, as I felt it would be more powerful for people simply to listen to me. If you are going to use a visual aid, think carefully about its content. Often less is more, as the saying goes. Limit the amount of text on each slide to about 4 to 6 bullet points. Make sure that there is enough contrast between the color of your text and the background color of your slide. Remember that what looks good on your computer screen may not look so good when projected onto a big screen. If you are using photos, make sure that you have people's permission to do so. Speaking your talk. Once your talk is written, it is time to speak it. How exactly you do this will vary depending on your AAC device. Listen to your talk with a critical ear. It is always good to assume that people will not be used to synthetic speech. Make sure it sounds right. This may mean changing the spelling of words so that they're pronounced correctly. In some cases I have found that I have had to use a completely different word. For example, to say hey and d, I used hey and d. Consider the speed at which you speak, and add additional pauses into your talk. This can usually be done by using extra punctuation, adding full stops and commas. Some systems will also recognize spaces or carriage returns. In other words, pressing the Enter key several times to create a gap between paragraphs. Time your talk. We as AAC users have the great advantage in that we can know ahead of time exactly how long we will talk for. One thing I do find is when writing a talk, I typically just write and write, not worrying about how long it is, until I start to edit and correct what I have written, because it is easier to make a talk shorter than it is to make it longer. Finalizing your talk. You have written your talk and prepared any visual aids. Now is the time to make sure you have at least one backup. Save your talk to a memory stick. Email it to yourself. Save it in a cloud storage service, like Dropbox or OneDrive. Printing it is also a good idea. Should the worst happen, and your device fails on the day, you at least have the option for someone to read your talk out loud. A top tip: if you can, create an audio file of your talk. This makes it easier for you to play your talk should there be a problem. Most computers and mobile devices can play an MP3 file. If your device has updates available, avoid installing any updates until after you have delivered your talk. It's not worth the risk of something going wrong. Finally, practice your talk as much as you need to. This is usually until you feel comfortable with it. Delivering your talk. The big day is finally here. It is normal to feel nervous. I have been giving talks for 15 years now, and I still get nervous. Every time. My advice is, get there early. Allow extra time for unexpected delays when traveling or finding the venue. Get into the venue as early as possible and ask to test your sound and any presentation or video you will be using. Make sure you know where you will be sitting. It is okay to politely ask for a table or to move slightly so the audience can better see you. This may not always be possible though, so prepare yourself for this. Try to relax as much as possible, Remember, people want to hear what you have to say, and being overly nervous will make the audience nervous for you too. Look at and acknowledge the people as they enter the venue. A smile or subtle nod of the head is enough. Your moment has arrived. Take a deep breath and deliver your talk. While speaking, try to remember to look at the people in the audience. If you are really nervous, I find that it helps to look for a friendly face and focus on delivering the talk to them. This can help you to stay calm. What if things don't go quite to plan? From experience, I can tell you this does happen. Not very often, but it happens. If it does, stay calm. The audience will be on your side. Remember that. Calmly focus on correcting the problem and either continue where you left off or start again. I also suggest having a pre-programmed message in your device. I often had. Technology, you have got to love it. Anyway, let's carry on. Programmed in my device. I wish you every success with delivering talks.